Well, it's always sad when you start off the day and you lose somebody that's very well known but is an absolute legend. But like all sad stories, when you're talking about legends, they're that way for a reason. And talking about Val Kilmer, who sadly passed away at 65. He had a long, long battle with cancer, but he fought like a champ. And that's really the lesson about that guy's story because, wow, it was amazing. I mean, the guy was a star in more ways than just on the silver screen. The guy was a star because of how he fought and he showed other people how to fight. It's a sad story, but like everything, there's always a silver lining in there. But we'll talk about him. Oh, we have another Hollywood star who's the exact opposite of that, playing the race card. He's a Star Wars guy, but the reason why his character didn't take off, it's because the fans, they don't like the way he looks. Yeah, okay. Also in Hollywood, we're going to talk about pot in theaters. This is Hollywood's great, grand idea to fix their industry. It's not no. We're not going to make better movies. We're going to allow people to bring weed into movie theaters. I swear to God, this is like a real idea that actually may happen. Now look at it again. Forget about the idea about making better movies. They'll just let you bring weed into the theater, so you don't even remember what the hell you're watching and how bad it was, and you forget about how much money you spent to see it there. But it won't be all entertainment. We're going to talk about Wisconsin too. We'll talk about that, the good and the bad, and the interesting takeaway from what happened there last night. But let's get right into it, and thanks for finding me. Wicked Radio. By the way, officially now the changeover has happened, so this is the live stream I'm going to keep on doing every single day just to get it all out there. And I'm telling you, I do this because if I don't get these thoughts in my head out and react and give you my mindset and what's going on in the crazy news, I'll lose my mind. So that's why I do it, and I kind of develop my content from there. But this will be part of a larger thing with some deeper dive interviews called Wicked Wisdom. So if you go to the Facebook page and the YouTube channel, and the entire podcast is going to be called Wicked Wisdom, the Wicked Radio live stream is going to live within that. All right, I know it's complicated. It'll all make sense soon. I promise you. But wherever you like to get your audio podcasts, any platform you want, just look for it right there. Still right now on Wicked Radio. Let's get to it. We lost Val Kilmer. This guy had a long battle. He was diagnosed with throat cancer back in 2016. Might have been 2014. But anyway, it was a long, long battle. I think about the roles. Iceman and Top Gun Maverick, or Tom Cruise. And good for Tom Cruise bringing him back to that role. He played Jim Morrison, and I just realized, I thought it was half and half where they put it into the mix. He sang all the the Doors songs when he played Jim Morrison. Did a great job in that role. Doc Holliday, great role he played in that. He was Batman. I thought he got a lot of criticism as Batman when he took over from Michael Keaton. I thought he actually did a pretty good job. But there was something amazing that came out, and if you never had a chance to see this, don't be afraid of it, because it's so encouraging. And it's so great in how he showed the world how he fought cancer. That documentary that came out in 2021 that he created, and they showed an inside view of his life and what he was going through and in his family life. It was called Val, and it came out in 2021. You want to talk about somebody, movie star or not, he just had the opportunity and the platform to talk about what he was going through, right? That's why he did it. You want to talk about somebody that fought bravely. This Val documentary, again, you can find it. It's probably on Netflix. It was so good. This guy fought tooth and nail. And a lot of people ask, well, why are you putting this on film? Why do people need to see this? It's exactly that. Find me somebody on the planet that isn't affected some way, somehow by cancer. I sure have. If not in your personal life, in your family life, or you have a friend that's been affected by it. I'm telling you, you watch this Val documentary and you see how somebody fought bravely. And that's why he did it. To show what he's going through, to kind of make it more accessible and more understanding for people. But man, I just thought the guy was, I don't throw this term hero out too often, but I think Val Kilmer was one. I really do. Here's him talk. Here's a little piece from the original Top Gun, and Tom Cruise talking about getting him in that role for both of those movies, actually.
You can be my wingman anytime.
Oh, you can be mine. You know, in the first one, I really rallied hard for him to make the movie.
You're everyone's problem.
And the kind of talent that he has, and you see that scene, it's very special. It's just very special.
And you know what? It is special, and it's special that Tom Cruise did that. I didn't know that until I saw that clip, and I heard that clip, where Tom Cruise rallied way back when, from the 80s, the first original Top Gun, to get Val Kilmer that role. Because I kind of thought, at the time, as many times as I've seen that movie, I was thinking that they were both the same level of stars. Tom Cruise was a way bigger movie star at that time. Not as big as he is now, but at that time. So he was the one that got Val Kilmer in that role to play Iceman. I didn't know that. We all know the story, which was so cool. We'll get into this, actually, talking about Hollywood. One of the last really, really good, well-produced films that came out. Top Gun Maverick, the newer one, a couple of years ago. Tom Cruise fought for that one, too, to get Val Kilmer, who couldn't even speak at the time, back to reprise his role as Iceman. So Tom Cruise deserves a lot of the credit for getting Val Kilmer into our lives. But I'm telling you, somebody that fought so bravely, never complained once about it. Val Kilmer never complained with the hand he was dealt in the past few years, which was crappy. He just fought like a champ, and he showed other people how to fight. By the way, there's a great quote from him. I got to see if I can dig up for you when he actually talked about this, where he didn't, blame anybody. He didn't whine about it. He died of pneumonia, by the way, was the official thing. He said, "I have no regrets, whatsoever. I've had a great life," and said it's an adage, but it's kind of true. Once you're a star, you're always a star. It's just at what level. I love that. Now, if you had heard that and somebody who wasn't battling cancer, you'd kind of say, wow, what an ego. But he was laying it all out there. He says, nah, absolutely no regrets whatsoever. So what? I was dealt with this. I'm going to fight it. Good lesson for all of us. Before we get into Wisconsin, this popped up too, now that we're talking about movie stars, and I thought it was ironic. I always talk about how things always seem to come in themes. So we have the brave Val Kilmer, which sucks that we lost him. Well, here's another Hollywood star who doesn't get it. You ready for this? This popped up in an interview just a couple of days ago. We all know, speaking of crappy movies, that once Disney got a hold of the Star Wars franchise, it wasn't too good, right? And they never really understood why. It's like, why don't the fans react to this with the same level of passion? Well, there's lots of reasons why. Maybe it's because your stars and your directors and your producers just don't get it. They don't understand. Case in point. How about this guy? How about John Boyega? If you know the Star Wars franchise, and I've seen every single one of them, my kids love them too. He played Finn, right? He's an English actor, but he put on an American accent for the movie. He says, get this, talk about the opposite of Val Kilmer. He says the fans' problem with black men in a lead role is that they don't understand and they're not ready for it, right? Now, here's an actor who got the role of a lifetime to be in a Star Wars franchise. But he says he wasn't the lead. He wasn't the big name. Because why? It's our fault, right? Boy, if this doesn't just encapsulate it all, Hollywood just does not understand the audience. He blames us. Here was the quote.
Let me tell you, Star Wars always had the vibe of being in the most whitest elite space. Like, this franchise is so white that it's like a black person existing in that was something. And you can always tell it's something when some Star Wars fans try to say, well, we had Lando Calrissian and had Samuel L. Jackson. It's like telling me how many cookie chips are on the cookie dough. I'm like, bro, it's just, they just scattered that in there, bro. They're okay with us playing the best friend. But once we touch their heroes, once we lead, once we trailblaze, it's like, oh my God, it's just a bit too much.
Oh, so you've even gone so far as to mock us, mock the fans, the people that actually buy this stuff, and the people that buy the Comic-Con tickets and the gear and the memorabilia stuff and all of and the DVDs, really. So, but we don't get it. That's why you weren't a lead in this series. This is it. This sums up everything that's wrong with Hollywood. That and more. They don't understand the audience. And when the guy doesn't get what he wants, when he's upset that he's not a lead character, and he says, well, it's because I'm black. There you go. You couldn't find a more perfect example of entertainers that get it and don't. Val Kilmer says no regrets whatsoever. I don't blame anybody. I've had a great life. And you know what? I'm still a star. Perfect. Great. And he still fought. And he showed the world how he fought. And you got this guy, Finn from Star Wars. Well, it wasn't a lead because the audience wasn't aware, wasn't ready for it. Yeah. Sure, pal. Who goes to Star Wars thinking, even looking or thinking about race? Anybody? I'm sure they're out there because that's all they've been taught. Everything's a race card. We put people in categories and identity politics, right? I've never gone or looked at a Star Wars movie and thought about race. It's a space movie. Like, really? This is how they want you to think? It's a space movie. I see aliens. I see humanoids, but it's supposed to be in the distant galaxy, yet they have a long time ago and they have better technology than us. I see droids. This guy is so freaking clueless, but the scary thing is there's a lot of Hollywood like that. They're so, this is why we all say, like, what happens to people in Hollywood? They become so disconnected with reality and what real people are really like that guy. They have no idea. That's why they don't get it. That's why they're miserable. That's why their opinions on like what's going on in society are so twisted. That's why their movies suck. That guy right there. That's the perfect example of exactly what's happening. Yeah. Race card with Star Wars. Who the hell thinks about race with a space movie, for God's sakes? But there you go. So they still don't get it. And the only answer is stop going to the movies. I guess. Will they learn it then? No, they'll still blame us. They're blaming us for these box office bombs that are happening these days. Well, did you hear Rachel Zegler, by the way? Snow White? Well, because people weren't ready for me in that role. Your role sucked. And you weren't good. The movie was bad, and nobody wanted a remake in the first place. That's why. No, it's the audience's fault. Okay, sure. We'll talk about movie theaters again in just a minute, but I got to talk about Wisconsin because this is fascinating. So Wisconsin last night had the big vote for, and we won't spend a lot of time on politics. My mindset on this is the takeaway and where we're at when we look at these kinds of things and how the media treated it. So there was a big special election vote for their Supreme Court seat. The conservative guy, Brad Schimmel, lost to Susan Crawford, and they called it early, which was, a lot of people were upset about that, but that's what it was. So she's the far left candidate, and she's going to, the speculation is, I guess people are upset because she's going to redistrict the voting map of the state. That'll give them 2 or 3 more seats, and they'll probably win the House because of that. And if they do that, they'll try to impeach Trump again, and, far-reaching implications. Except for one thing. The same state that voted for her in that special election, what was also on the ballot was this initiative, I guess it was question number 1 in Wisconsin, to make voter ID enshrined into the law in that state. And it passed. Well, what does that tell you? Hold on a second. So the same people that voted for a far-left Supreme Court justice to put her on their state Supreme Court voted for voter ID. I think the takeaway is, that tells you everybody, even leftists, are for voter ID. And I'm telling you, if the GOP doesn't jump on this and push for every single state or a national law for voter ID, they're absolute lazy morons because everybody wants it. There's never been a hotter issue. They never will have more support for this if they don't get this done. And they may not because they're lazy and dumb. So they may not, but they should. We know that much. Here's the other takeaway from this thing last night because it was very strange. There's a speculation here that unless Trump is on the ballot, regular hardworking folks won't show up. And it may be true. I don't know. Because what's the populist candidate? They're people who work with their hands. They work late. It's no excuses, I'm just telling you. They don't really get involved unless it's a big national issue. But you've got their supposed political party that doesn't reach out to them. Just laziness. They're telling you what they want. They want voter ID. They're telling you that. And yet they still voted for this lady. Reach out to them. Lazy. That's the thing. That's the takeaway. Nobody can get lazy after this because I guess that's the natural course of things. Here's the other thing. Now, the media is trying to pin this on Elon. We all know that Elon Musk spent a ton of money. I think it was over $20 million. He was on stage in Wisconsin. He did interviews on it, politicking and campaigning for this Brad Schimmel guy, and it didn't work. So all the Democrats, the talking heads, and the leftists are saying, Elon, major fail, major loss. Not only that, they're trying to pin this and actually blame it on Elon, where it was like a referendum for him. So it's an Elon backlash. Is it really, though? Because let's look into the money spending. CNN last night, I didn't watch it live. I can't stand them. But it was interesting. Jake Tapper had a panel of guests on, including Scott Walker, who used to be the governor in Wisconsin. And he asked him, he's trying to get to the point, he's trying to make the case that this was a referendum on Elon and all the spending. And he gets into the spending money. Here's what Scott Walker actually said.
Collectively, if you look at all the money from outside that was given to her, again, 77% of it came from out of state, only 15% came from Schimmel. And collectively, a number of the analysis showed.
I'm just saying, like in terms of the money from
individually
J.B.
those did, but if you look at the whole outside money that came from out of the state, it's clearly.
But you don't think it was a referendum on Musk at all, though?
Oh, I think it had a part of it. I think a lot of different issues.
Here's what the media is trying to tell you today, and this is why you shouldn't buy it, for exactly what Scott Walker said there. What he said was, they're trying to say that Elon spent all that money and lost, and it was a referendum on him. There was more money spent on her from the people that you don't see that work in the shadows. And he said it right there. George Soros, J.D. Pritzker, the guy from Illinois, and Reid Hoffman. There was far more money spent, but they operate in the shadows. They're not out and about like Elon is because he's a public figure. They're trying to blame all of that on Elon. That's absolute propaganda. I wouldn't buy it at all. But interesting, though. Voter ID, yes, and yet they voted for her. Something is off there. I don't know exactly what it is, other than the fact that if the Republicans don't jump on this and push for a national voter ID law, they're absolute idiots and just laziness. That's all it is. Everybody wants it. The only reason why you would ever not want voter ID for elections is you're trying to steal an election, you're trying to cheat. It's that simple. It's that simplified, and it's an absolute fact. And almost everybody understands that. All right, I'm going to get back to Hollywood for a second. Sorry that's the theme today, but ready for this? We talked about Val Kilmer, who gets it. Finn from Star Wars doesn't get it. Hollywood doesn't get it, but they came up with an idea. They came up with an idea to save their films, right? Because what's been bombing? How's that Snow White movie doing? On pace to lose over $150 million. Not make, lose in the hole. How about the De Niro movie? It's made about like $8 so far in national theories. That was a bomb as well. How about the other latest big bomb? Remember does anybody remember the Captain America movie? It came out a few weeks ago. Bomb. But again, what's the Hollywood mindset? Oh, it's our fault, right? You know, hardworking American people. We don't understand, right? We're not ready for these certain things. Right. Maybe it's because your movies suck. Did you ever think about that? Well, amazingly, apparently, guys, they're not thinking about that. Let's go to Variety, which is supposedly the industry standard for Hollywood. And you're wondering why I'm talking about entertainment. It's not really about that so much. It's about culture. It's about what's going on in society. That, you know, entertainment's just a downstream from that. Let's go to an article that came out in Variety just a couple of years ago. You ready for this? You're not going to believe it. Here's the headline. Texting, weed, and sing-alongs. 4 radical ideas for bringing new audiences to movie theaters. Guess what they didn't mention anywhere in the article? Guys, maybe we should, not make movies that suck. How about that idea? I'll read a little bit more further into the article. Ready for this? From selling pot along with popcorn to offering cell phone-friendly screenings, cinema owners could soon overhaul the way that customers watch films. These changes, once considered sacrilegious, may give the box office a much-needed boost. You know what would give them a boost? Make better movies, you freaking idiots. Can you imagine that? And I'm telling you, and full disclosure, I'll say this to you honestly as somebody who is quite a big fan of his pot gummies on a Friday night. You know what I'm saying? I'm not anti-pot at all. I think it has more benefits than detractions. I do not, in any way, shape, or form, want weed in movie theaters. First of all, it offends me that they think that's the answer to bring people back to the theater because it's so stupid, right? Make better movies, you morons. Secondly, you're never going to get rid of it. Then how are you going to tell a cigarette smoker that they can't bring weed into the movie theater, right? Well, this guy lit up a big blunt. Why can't I bring a Marlboro? And that guy would make a good point. It's not about making better movies. It's about, let's let them have cell phones. Oh, that's a great movie experience, right? Oh, and sing-alongs. Let's make all the movies sing-alongs. Oh, there's another great idea. They don't get it. The whole reason why I bring it up is not so much because of the pot. It's the fact that they don't understand audiences at all. Your reaction? I'll tell you what mine is. I'll never go to a theater that allows that. I'll never do it because you're never going to get rid of it. You're just not. You're not going to get rid of it. You can't tell the cigarette smokers they can't come, so you're going to have that in there too. And you got people talking out loud on their cell phones while you're trying to watch a movie. All while you paid, what, for a family of 4? $70, $80 to get in there? How about the lines, too? How about the concession line, right? Again, I say this as somebody who's a pretty big fan of pot, at least pot gummies. How about the line of concessions? They're long enough. You're going to have people sitting there going, looking at the menu going, I don't know. To a pimply-faced 17-year-old kid who's just as high behind the counter who can't figure out your exact change. Oh, it's a terrible idea. But that's them. Don't fall for it. All right. Thanks for finding me. I'm out of material. R.I.P. Val Kilmer. You fought like a champ, and you showed us all how to fight. And I'm telling you, check out that Val documentary he put on. I think it's on Netflix. See, you don't have to go to theaters. You can check it out on Netflix because I think that guy was great. He's somebody that got it. But Hollywood doesn't get it. Don't ever put up with that. And don't let them tell you that this loss in Wisconsin was a referendum on Elon Musk. That's more media propaganda. More importantly, don't take any crap from anybody, ever, especially the people trying to put pot in movie theaters. What a stupid idea. Have a wicked awesome Wednesday. I don't know who the heck knows what's going to happen tomorrow, but we'll be talking about it. And don't forget, wherever you like your audio podcast, I'm all choked up about it now, thinking about pot. Wherever you like to get your audio podcasts, where you'll find Wicked Radio on there. And again, it's Wicked Wisdom on Facebook, YouTube, and that's the overall name of the podcast once that gets changed. So thanks for finding me. I'll talk to you tomorrow.